So let me ask you this. What tasks are on your to-do list right now that are not important and maybe not even urgent? What tasks on your list do you have to tackle today? And what tasks can be prioritized for one day next week? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to organize instead of just have like this ongoing task list? You can organize your tasks and figure out exactly what you need to do today. It's almost as if somebody is standing there telling you, here's what's important today, do this one thing. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you the scoop on the Eisenhower Matrix, and then you can literally close this podcast and apply it to your to-do list today, right now. So let's get started. Welcome to The Composed Artist, the podcast where we explore the intersection of artistry, entrepreneurship, and self-improvement and continue to pursue a more composed life. I'm your host, Stephanie, an artist specializing in live wedding painting, living in the vibrant and soulful city of New Orleans. Over the past decade, my job has taken me all over the world, meeting and creating art in front of thousands of people, and has allowed me to create a colorful life for myself and my family. Now, I help other artists build confidence, develop their techniques, and fall in love with the art of live wedding painting. I invite you to join us for inspiring stories of creative journeys, practical tips for running a successful art business, and honest conversations about the joys and challenges of running a studio and being a parent. This podcast is here to keep you company, keep you entertained, and is full of resources to help you on your journey to create a business that feeds your soul, makes an impact, and is insanely profitable. The Composed Artist is the podcast for the bold, creative, passionate, and genuine artist. Let's get started. Hello. Do you ever feel overwhelmed with your to-do list? It can't just be me. I can't be the only one who feels overwhelmed at all times of the day with tasks that have to do with the business, um, deadlines for paintings, things that my kids need me to do, things that I need to do around the house. Like it just never ends. And it can be difficult to prioritize tasks. They all feel urgent and important. They all feel like they should be your number one priority. And that's not really true, is it? Some tasks are important and some tasks just aren't. And so there's this tool that I've been using for the past 12 years. I learned about it when I was working for my last boss, honestly, and I've applied this tool just in my day-to-day task delegation process ever since. Sometimes I kind of forget about it and I allow myself to be overwhelmed by my to-do list, and then I'll slam my hand on my desk and say there's got to be a better way. And then I remember there is a better way. Use this tool. And the tool that I'm talking about is the Eisenhower Matrix, or the urgent important matrix. And it's a super duper simple like graph. It's you can do it yourself very quickly on a sheet of paper. You can apply it to all of your to-do lists, like all of your tasks that you have to do today, this week, this month, whatever. And it will help you determine what you need to do right now, what you can do tomorrow, what you can put off until tomorrow, what you can put off until next week, what is not important or urgent at all. And like you can get rid of it. You can completely remove it from your to-do list. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to organize instead of just have like this ongoing task list? You can organize your tasks and figure out exactly what you need to do today. It's almost as if somebody is standing there telling you, here's what's important today, do this one thing. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you the scoop on the Eisenhower Matrix, and then you can literally close this podcast and apply it to your to-do list today, right now. So let's get started. So what is the Eisenhower Matrix and where did it come from? The Matrix was designed by our 34th president of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Thank you, Dwight. And it was created to help you prioritize your task list and kind of organize everything that you have to do to help you avoid being overwhelmed. It's incredibly simple. And I'm a visual learner. So have even like recording this episode, I kind of had to draw out the quadrants again just to remind me how it's organized. And so if you're listening in, please grab a pencil and a piece of paper or a napkin or whatever and just kind of sketch this out. It's super duper simple. You're basically going to draw either four squares, like two on the top, two on the bottom, or you're just going to draw a cross to give yourself four quadrants. The quadrant on the top left, the two quadrants on the top are going to be labeled urgent and not urgent. And then if you go to kind of the left-hand side, the two rows, the top row is going to be important and the bottom row is going to be not important. So the quadrant on the top left is urgent and important. The quadrant on the top right is going to be important but not urgent. On the bottom, on the left, it's going to be urgent but not important. And the bottom right hand quadrant is going to be not urgent and not important. So let's break those down. An example of an urgent and important task might be going to the bathroom. It's urgent, it's important. Everything else becomes not a priority anymore. You have to go to the bathroom, you have to take care of that. An example of an important but not urgent task might be completing a deadline, finishing a painting. It's important, but you don't have to do it at this very moment. An example of an urgent but not important task may be responding to an email that just came in. I've literally had to turn my notifications off when I'm trying to be productive, because if I see that notification that I've got an email and it's an inquiry for a potential job, I'll immediately want to go click it. That's not important right now. Worry about the task at hand. It's feels urgent because it's like, ding, here we are. Look at me, but it's not important. So that's a good example, an email notification. An example of a not urgent and not important task would be watching TV or scrolling on Instagram or, I don't know, pedaling around in the studio. You may feel like you're wanting to do that. You may feel drawn to this distraction, if you will, but it's not productive, it's not important, and it's not a priority. So that's the basic breakdown of the Eisenhower or urgent important matrix. Some tasks are important and urgent. Do them now, do them quick. Some tasks are urgent but not important, like that email notification. Some tasks are important but not urgent, so like planning dinner or completing a painting on a certain deadline. And then the tasks that are not important or not urgent, sometimes we even write them down because we think they're important, but truly they're not. And so using this, you can literally use this matrix at any time to organize the tasks on any given day, whether they are business related or like family and personal related. So that's the next thing that I want to talk about: how to apply the matrix to your personal life, your family life, especially if you're a mom and the tasks, they don't even feel like a list anymore. They just feel like they're hovering around in the air around my head at all times. Do the laundry, go make dinner. Do we have milk? Did we run out of eggs this morning? Like, do we have diapers? What needing to run an errand? All of these things, they're just always there. And so writing them down and organizing them using the matrix is incredibly helpful. So let's talk about that. This past weekend, my 5-year-old Madeline had kind of been coughing a little bit. Like, you can tell she was coming down with some sort of cough, some sort of cold. And she went to bed Sunday night and had like this coughing fit. And it triggered this really strenuous breathing episode. So it wasn't like an asthma attack, but it's certainly like sitting there watching her try to breathe was like, okay, something's kind of wrong here. So I basically stayed up all night with her to make sure that she was okay. She was able to breathe. She was kind of clearing her airway and not congested or whatever. And it was a very long night for both of us. And when we both got up the next morning, her condition had not improved. And I decided, you know what? This was like Monday morning. I decided we need to try to nip this in the bud. This looks like it's very annoying and painful for you. So, let's go to the ER. So I grabbed her and we went to the ER with the hopes that they would give her a breathing treatment or some sort of steroid to help clear her up, which they did. And it worked. But her oxygen was not like ideal. It was kind of lingering at like 90, and I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know the units of measurement for oxygen, but it was looking like on the monitor, it was kind of lingering between 90 and 92. And the nurse and the doctor were like, this is a little low. Like, we prefer to see it closer to a 95 out of 100, right? You can have 100% oxygen. That's how I kept thinking of it. She's not at 100%, but like, how bad is 90 kind of thing. So with her kind of sticking around at that 90 range, they decided they wanted to admit her. So just on the basis of not having a high enough oxygen. So Monday afternoon, my 5-year-old and I were I went with her, obviously, but it was for her. We were transported to the hospital in an ambulance, so that was a fun experience. I'd never ridden in an ambulance before, and neither had she, so we did that. Woohoo! Hopefully, we never do it again. And we spent the night at the hospital, and then she was perfectly fine. They took her off of oxygen. She survived, and we went home the next day. But what happened was Monday morning, her healthcare, her situation, my 5-year-old daughter, became urgent and important. And so anything else that I had planned that day fell by the wayside. I just kind of put it off to the side burner and then took care of the urgent and important task, which was taking care of Madeline. The deadline I was working on that day, recording another episode for the podcast, which was something I needed to do Tuesday, the following day. Those all were put off to the side. They were kind of, I didn't like physically write down the matrix and organize those, but I like immediately we'll do that. We'll handle that later. We'll do those tomorrow. So this is a perfect example of a quadrant one task. It became urgent and important. Some tasks are urgent and important from the get-go, but some tasks are urgent and important at all times. So me leaving my house at 4:30 in order to pick up my kids from school every day before the school closes, that's urgent and important at 4:30 every day. Madeline getting sick and me having to take her to the ER that morning became urgent and important. It wasn't planned, but it certainly took precedent over other tasks that I had that day. So that's a good example of how I a lot of times have to organize and reorganize my motherly duties, my task list regarding my family in a way that provides clarity and helps me feel as though I'm kind of in control and I'm handling my tasks and my tasks aren't in control of me. So, other examples of how I can use the Eisenhower Matrix to organize the tasks in my life. That was a good one for an urgent and important task. An example for an important but not urgent task is making sure I spend some one on one time with my kids, making sure I'm nurturing that relationship, making sure I'm scheduling time for self care for myself. It's not urgent, but it is important. If I don't take care of those tasks, then the relationships fall apart and I become overwhelmed for the self-care part. And maybe scheduling a date night with my husband, I'm putting it on the calendar, it's important, but it is not urgent that I have to do right now. By scheduling these important but not urgent tasks, I create space in the calendar and I make them a priority at a specified time to avoid them becoming urgent. And the best part of all that is that I feel in control and I have already set space to spend time with my family so they don't fall by the wayside. If I treated those tasks as not important and not urgent, they would never get done. I would never spend time with my family. So that's one way that I schedule that time to make sure it happens and I feel balanced and I feel like it was my decision and I'm in control and I don't forget about them. Moving on to the next quadrant, an urgent but not important task. When it comes to motherhood, in my situation, I'll just give you an example. I work from home. My kids go to daycare or they go to school. So, unless I have like a baby at home, which I've had 3 babies at home, and everything feels urgent and important when the baby's there. But when everybody's settled in their respective schools for the day and I'm home alone, it is very important for me to stay focused on the task at hand. So, let me kind of give you a scenario. I'm working in my studio and I want to go, I haven't eaten yet. And so I need to go and make a meal of some sort. So I walk out of the studio and I walk through my kids' playroom toward my kitchen. And I notice that the playroom is somewhat messy. They got into some toys this morning before they left, and there's, stuffed animals and blocks and stuff just skewed about the room. And to me, because I like to have kind of a tidy house when I'm working, because of course it settles that desire to go and do the mom thing, which is to clean up and whatever. I immediately stop in my tracks and start picking up because it feels urgent. It feels like I need to pick this up now. Truthfully, I can step over those blocks and go and do the task that I need to do, which is just feed myself, and then walk back in the room and step over the blocks again and get back to work. Like I can stay focused if I understand, like I move that task from seemingly urgent but not important to important and not urgent. Like I can relocate that to it's important. I know I need to clean it up and I know it'll give me peace, but here I'm going to schedule it at 3 o'clock. I'm going to give myself the time I need to do the task at hand in the studio. And then I'll take a 10-minute break at 3 and I'll delegate time for me to go do that. I do that a lot. It seems unimportant, like going and picking up a mess in another room doesn't feel important or urgent to someone else. But you understand your situation at home. You understand these little nuanced things that feel urgent to you. And so controlling the task list and how it's organized will give you a lot of peace. Just trust me. Just give it a try. And of course, the fourth quadrant, not important and not urgent. That is all social media. Unless I am scheduling time to post content for marketing purposes, I don't need to be on Instagram. But I find myself hopping on to check my DMs or to respond to somebody or to, look up a vendor, do research, whatever. And then before you know it, it's been 30 minutes and I'm scrolling on Instagram. That's not important. I don't need to do that. I need to make sure I need to set routine and set boundaries and parameters to avoid wasting time. That is a task that wastes time. And if you have multiple tasks on your list that are important and even urgent, it's it kind of stinks to have to look back at your day and realize how much time you wasted on not important and not urgent tasks. So this is the matrix doesn't solve all your problems, but it does provide clarity as to which tasks actually deserve your time and which can you could start putting steps into motion. You could start organizing your priorities to not do those things. You can start setting limitations or, delete the app altogether or, set some sort of limit on that app and not waste that time. I used to be so scared. I mean, terrified to bring oil paints to a wedding or an event that I was painting at until I realized that Gamblin has me covered with all of the mediums, the paint thinner, the varnish, the whole gambit. I love using Gamsol as an odorless paint thinner. Okay, this is what I use to wash my brushes to thin the paint. I use a big jug of that to slow the drying time. If I'm trying to finish a painting and layer and do all of that, I use Galkid. It's a very thick medium that I love to use with my oil paints. And let's say it's very dry, it's a very hot and dry environment. I love to slow the drying time with refined linseed oil. This is my medium of choice for my oil paints. And when the painting is dry and I'm ready to send it off to the client, I varnish it with Gamvar, high gloss. That's my preference. And Gamblin has you covered with your preference as well. You can visit their website, www.gamblincolors.com. That's spelled GAMBLIN colors.com, or you can click the link in the show notes to shop my preference for oil painting mediums. Check them out and thank me later. So those are all examples of tasks that I have on my list at all times when it comes to being a mom. Ways in which I use the Eisenhower Matrix to clarify the tasks on my work to-do list. Let's get into that. When it comes to my work to-do list, it is much longer than my personal to-do list, which I can appreciate. That's fine. I like to stay busy, but I use this matrix all the time. And also it helps me assign tasks based on projects. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. Currently, I'm prioritizing the podcast and getting that up and going. I'm coming up with episode ideas and outlines for scripts, and I'm reaching out to people and asking them to be guests on the podcast, and I'm just prioritizing my time to get the podcast going. I'm putting more time now than hopefully it will require of me in the future. At the same time, I'm designing and launching a new website for education, for coaching, for my online course, for the podcast itself. I want all of this to live on a website that is not my painting website, Toro Grossa Fine Art. That website is dedicated to my wedding clients, my commission clients. It's hosting my portfolio. That's my website for me as an artist, and then me as a podcast host and an educator and a coach and a mentor. That's going to live on its own separate thing. So this is something that I am working on currently. And at the same time that I have those two pretty big projects going on, I'm working on commissions. I'm touching up wedding paintings. I have upcoming weddings that I have to prepare for and book travel arrangements for. I do have a virtual assistant now. Yay! Love you, Nicole. I'm so excited. She has been very helpful in kind of helping me respond to inquiries and making sure that my emails are responded to in a timely manner. Because that was something that I was kind of slacking on for a minute. Answering emails tended to be pushed into that not urgent, important, but important later quadrant. And that's not cool. That's not fair. And so I definitely brought her on to help me with that. And then she's helped me in more proactive matters as well. So I'm very grateful to have her help. She's been helping me cross tasks off my to-do list for sure. And if you are in a position where you are feeling very overwhelmed with your task list and you're noticing that a lot of the tasks are things that someone else besides you, the artist, can do, I would encourage you to consider maybe a part-time virtual assistant, because I find Nicole to be very helpful. But of course, because especially she lives in a different state and she's not an artist, Nicole can't help me do the paintings. Nicole can't go and do live wedding paintings for me. She can't help me in the studio. And so those are tasks that only I can do. She can't sit here and record a podcast episode in my voice with my face. That's something I can do. She can help with the website design though. She can help me switch content over from one website to another. So it may feel sometimes like you have to handle every single task on your to-do list. But truthfully, you don't. And when it comes down to it, there may be a better person to do. I know I hate hearing that, because when it's my business and my baby, I want to have my hands in everything. It feels so important that I'm touching everything and everything is coming from me at all times. But truthfully, there are some areas in my business where it's not a strength of mine. Organization, responding in a timely manner, content planning, promotion planning, calendar planning, like calendar management, that is something that I struggle with. And so having Nicole come in, she is my complement. Like personality wise, she's the complement and she's here to support me. And so right now we're a good fit and I'm loving it. So all of that to say, I got a lot going on and I'm sure I'm missing something. Oh, I've been packaging, like creating my own art prints. I have a print shop online and on Etsy, and I'll occasionally, it's not like a booming business, but it is like a slowly here and there, a couple sales a week kind of thing. And my last employee who was here managing the shop and handling that process, she left to go to Denver to pursue her master's in art therapy, to do art with dementia patients, which is a beautiful calling, a beautiful vocation. And I love her for that, but I also am sad that she left. So those tasks are now on my list. And so I do that as well. And I'm sure I'm missing something, but for now, it gives you a kind of a snapshot of all the different projects going on and what all the task lists for each project may look like. So it's very important that I organize those tasks in a way that makes me feel in control and kind of peaceful about what's important right now, what to prioritize, and what to schedule for tomorrow or Friday or next week or next month or next quarter. It's kind of a really helpful way to organize things. Are you still using cheap art supplies? Look, you don't have to tell me, but if you want to level up, you have to use better supplies. Come on, let's invest a little. I've been using Rosemary and Company for my paintbrushes for the past 5 years or so, and I have never thrown away one of these brushes. The quality is unmatched, and they're like reasonably priced. I hate to say it, but they're the best. So I love a long handled paintbrush. Okay. I love a hog hair or an ivory, which is kind of a mixed bristle hair. And Rosemary and Company, they have like so many options. So I would check them out. The website is www.rosemaryandco.com. That's Rosemary spelled Rosemary and co.com. Or you can just click the link in my show notes and it'll take you directly to my personal wish list. It's all the brushes that I use and recommend. So check them out and thank me later. Now that you kind of have a bird's eye view of all the projects I've got going on in my business right now, let's talk about how I kind of organize them using the Eisenhower Matrix. An example of an urgent and important task would be a discovery phone call with a client that I have in 20 minutes. I can't miss that. That is on the calendar. It is urgent, important. I do it now. Another example would be a deadline. If I have a deadline to finish a painting so that it can dry to ship at a certain day, the deadline is now. That's a priority. I can't prioritize anything else because then I'll miss the deadline. And then it'll not only become urgent and important, but it'll be like a fire I need to put out. It'll be overly urgent. And we're trying to avoid panic in the studio. We're trying to make this very controlled and calm and enjoyable. And as I complete an urgent and important task, I pull one of the tasks from the important but not urgent quadrant. I pull that over and I put it and replace the old ones. And I'm like, this is the new urgent and important task. Do this one thing. And I think about that in terms of projects. So today, the urgent and important task was to record this episode. Hi, you're welcome. Here I am. But as soon as this is done and I close my camera and I turn off the mic, I'm going to work on the task and I close and I turn off the mic. I'm not going to get distracted by all of the email notifications that I've been seeing pop up on my computer. I'm not going to get on Instagram and scroll my life away for the next 30 minutes. I'm going to log in to show it and I'm going to start working on the task that is next on the schedule for today, which I scheduled last week. After I record the podcast episode, I'm going to work on the site design for 2 hours before my next discovery call. So I've like passed Stephanie. Stephanie last week helped Stephanie today out a lot by organizing and scheduling those important but not urgent tasks so that I can tackle them and they're urgent at this very moment and I don't get distracted or overwhelmed by all the important and urgent tasks because they're not all urgent and important. An example of an important but not urgent task, like I said, could be a deadline that I have next week, but it could also be like personal development and growth. Let's say I sign up for an online course. That's something that I plan to do. I sign up and then I schedule the time to go through the course and consume the content and apply the practices that I'm learning to my own business to practice the techniques or, work on the business in some way. But that is something that I can't stop what I'm doing now. I can't avoid recording this podcast episode, which is the urgent and important task for today, to do self-improvement work. Like that wouldn't be a wise use of my time. It would be wise for me to delegate. Next Wednesday, I'm going to dive into the course and I'm going to complete one module. Something like that. You're avoiding overwhelm with all of the tasks being urgent and important all the time by scheduling the tasks that you definitely don't want to forget about, scheduling them at a later time and day. The important and not urgent tasks are critical for long-term growth. So if you want to see your business grow, if you want to see your business develop way more than it is today, next year, then you have to put those important tasks on the calendar 1 week out, 1 month out. You have to set a schedule time. I love to operate in quarters. I love to dedicate the next 3 months to working on one project at a time. I love to focus my energy, my efforts, my brain power, every cell that is not dedicated to the kids or my husband. I love to devote my time and energy on one big project at a time. And then kind of take on the daily tasks, work on this painting here and there, but not like dive into the studio and get everything all painty and messy because the main project I'm working on is developing this new website or recording 50 podcast episodes or whatever. It really helps me to focus. I am an artist. I'm a creative type. I'm not very organized. I'm not type A. I'm not all about tasks and organization and spreadsheets and, so I need to kind of be reminded, like I need to help myself out. Here, don't forget, these are important. Look, I organized this for you already. These are important. Don't worry about these right now. Don't look at that one. Look at this one. Focus on this quadrant. Cross these 5 things off the list and then rearrange. An example of an urgent and not important task, again, is an email. That's the perfect example. It pops up, it looks shiny, it looks important, it looks urgent, but it's not. It feels urgent because of the way it's delivered to you. A phone call from a client who wants their painting right now, that feels urgent. But for you, unless like you have missed the deadline, that's not urgent for you. You need to stand your ground and stick to your calendar. And of course, treat the client with kindness and tell them, don't worry. I know you're on the queue. I see your name. I see you're on the list. But this is the date 2 weeks from now. This is the deadline I've set. And so, I'll touch base with you next week. Don't let these squeaky wheels run the show. I feel all the time, like my husband, he's always saying, all I did was put out fires today. I feel like I wasn't productive at all because I was just putting out fires. These things that pop up that he has to address, they become urgent and they get in the way of what he had prioritized for the day. I do the same thing. And for me, it's like I greased the squeaky wheel today. The one thing that popped up that felt urgent but wasn't what I was hoping to do today, I just put my energy to greasing that squeaky wheel, and I just took care of that one urgent thing, that thing that was urgent for someone else. And so it is a challenge. It is not easy. This matrix, again, does not solve all your problems, but if you use it as a tool, it can be very helpful, and it can help you chill out and help you avoid like stress and anxiety, and help you love your job and love what you do. And again, I don't have to beat a dead horse, but Instagram, social media, it is a perfect example of a non-important, non-urgent task. It shouldn't even be a task, but it is something that we have to avoid doing, or like limit our time doing. And don't let that become an urgent or important or prioritized task at all. Keep control of your schedule and what's important. So let's kind of refresh how to take back control. If you have like a single line to-do list, maybe even a double line to-do list, look at the list, break down each task. Like you can make a mark each one, highlight each one, and you don't have to physically put them in a quadrant. It may be helpful to visually see certain tasks in certain quadrants, but however you choose to organize your task list, organize it by quadrants, by tasks that are urgent and important, and then, all the rest of the quadrants. And then see if you can schedule days to batch those important and urgent tasks. Here's a great example: recording podcast episodes. Here's what I have to do in order to be productive and efficient with recording podcast episodes. I have to get up and do my hair and makeup. Do I have to? No, but I feel like I'm more professional, more well presented. And so that's something that I've decided I'm going to do in order to be presentable and be ready to record the podcast episode. Those listening in, just trust me, I look beautiful right now. I don't want to like just ramble on a thought. I have to kind of organize my thoughts and have an outline or some sort of like list of notes to go off of. If you're watching the video, I'm sure you've noticed I've kind of darted my eyes down to my notes just to make sure I stay on track and I don't go off on too many tangents. But this takes preparation, it takes time. And not only preparing the outline for one episode, but also maybe two or three more, so that while I am sitting here in my studio, which has kind of been arranged in a way that kind of looks nice and feels productive for recording video or recording a lesson of some sort. I do all of my course recording in this studio and in the room right outside. And so I'm used to kind of putting on a different hat and settling into this space in a way that is productive for education and not just painting. I'm still surrounded by all of my painting material, but today I'm not painting. I'm not using my right brain today. I'm just using my left brain. I am talking. I've tapped into that part of my brain. You may notice that I, stumble over words or, whatever. I'm literally just getting started with this podcast. And so you're watching me learn how to host a podcast right here, right now. You're watching it. And it's not going to be perfect, but it's part of the journey and I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. So anyway, I've prepared the day. I've prepared my mind. I've tapped into that left brain and I am recording a couple of episodes today. That's the goal. I'm not painting. painting is not a priority today. Recording podcast episodes is. And then later when I have those phone calls, I'll look really great. They won't know that, but I'm prepared to have my phone call, and it's structured in a certain way so that they get information, I get information, and then we kind of connect in a way that hopefully encourages them to choose to hire me. Like there's a strategy behind how I structure my days and how I structure my weeks in a way that it best serves the task at hand. So if I know I'm recording podcast episodes, or if I know that I'm writing, like if I'm writing content, I have to be in a certain headspace. Us right brain thinkers, us creative types, it's almost impossible, and it certainly is not enjoyable to switch from right brain to left brain in the span of a day or in the span of an hour. I personally, Stephanie, cannot paint for 1 hour and then switch to recording a podcast episode or writing an email or a blog post. I struggle with switching sides of my brain in the span of like one day. So if I'm going to batch tasks, I'm going to batch tasks based on the creative side or the analytical side. Okay. And I encourage you to try to do the same. It may make your life a lot easier. It may make you more efficient, and you may hopefully really dive into the task at hand and fall in love with what you're doing and not struggle so much like I do. So, time block for urgent and important tasks, time block for either scheduling or maybe tackling those important but not urgent tasks. Say no completely to quadrant 4 tasks. That shouldn't even be tasks. They're just things that you do and things that you want to do, or things that you're trying to kind of squeeze in, like scrolling on social media, watching a movie, whatever. Try to say no to those altogether, and then delegate the tasks that are in quadrant 3 and learn how to delegate. Let's talk about delegating for a second. Delegation helps you take tasks off of your to-do list so that you have more time, space, and energy to do the tasks that are the most profitable and fulfilling for you. Here's an example. I have cleaned my room and cleaned my house my entire life when I was growing up, cleaned my apartment. It was perfectly natural for me to, when I got married and moved into this house, which is much bigger than my old house, which means something whenever you're cleaning it. It became very overwhelming to try to keep up with cleaning the house when I was still working on my business. And so Chris and I decided that in order for me to just be more peaceful and less anxious all the time, less regretful that I wasn't able to, keep up with the house today. And then, we added Madeline to the mix. And so then I was a new mom running a business and trying to keep up with this house. He said, "What's a task that we can outsource?" And we decided to hire a housekeeper who comes in like once a month. So she comes in and helps me tidy up a little bit, helps me a little bit with the laundry, but she sweeps and mops and kind of cleans the bathrooms. This gives me so much peace. And I pay her like $100 for her to come and clean this whole house. And the time that she's here cleaning, I can earn so much more money doing, like, finishing up a wedding painting. Like, cleaning the house, cleaning my house does not bring me joy. It is overwhelming. It feels urgent and important all the time. If I don't keep up with it, I will fall behind, and it will become very overwhelming and very, like, not a peaceful environment. And I would much rather be doing the tasks in the studio. It would be more profitable, more fulfilling. It made sense at that time for us to hire a housekeeper. I've never had a housekeeper in my life. It was a very tough decision for me because I felt like I didn't deserve a housekeeper somehow. I don't know. I've gone through a lot of like psychological shifts and mindset shifts in my life. But this was a big one. It was accepting the help. It was accepting the opportunity for peace and happiness. And also, I'm employing someone. So I'm helping her support her family. So it is a very mutually beneficial situation. And I'm glad that I decided to take that off my list. Nicole, my virtual assistant, she is here to help. She is so excited to help give me peace and take some tasks off my list, tasks that it doesn't have to be me to do it. Especially if it's not like if I'm having really detailed conversation with a client over an email, I definitely can do that. I have to do that. But just responding and saying, "Hey, we see you. Hey, we're here. We received your inquiry. Either she's available or she's not available, but no matter what, here, let's serve you with recommendations or let's schedule a discovery call." Like, she responds quickly. She improves the client experience with communicating with me as a brand and as a business to work with. And I'm very grateful for the peace that she's provided in my life, Nicole, my assistant. And I hope that she enjoys working with me as well, and it can be mutually beneficial. And those tasks are off my list. And I feel so much peace. And I trust her. I would not have hired someone I didn't trust and didn't like. So there are ways that you can outsource certain tasks. There's also a service for like a laundry service my friend uses. It's called Hamper. And HAMPR, I think that's how it's spelled. I'm not affiliated with him or anything, but she said it costs like $15 for her to leave dirty clothes in a hamper out on her porch, and they pick it up, they wash it, they fold it, they bring it back the next day or later that day or something. That is life changing. If you're a mom trying to run a business and run a household and keep up with laundry, and you have more than one kid, or the kid is potty training, and so you're washing so much clothes every day, there are tools, there are opportunities for you to outsource certain tasks and make your life easier, more enjoyable, and kind of stimulate the economy too. Like, you're earning money, let's outsource a service and help support another small business. So let me ask you this. What tasks are on your to-do list right now that are not important and maybe not even urgent? What tasks on your list do you have to tackle today? And what tasks can be prioritized for one day next week? When it comes to certain projects that you're working on, whether it's a project requiring your left brain or a project requiring your right brain, are you finishing a couple of paintings in the studio? Do you need to focus on that and close your computer, put your phone on do not disturb? Or do you need to leave your studio space, go to a coffee shop and work on your website and write blog posts? Tap into your left side brain. Take a look at your to-do list. Take a look at the tasks that you handle that are, new and upcoming, and then tasks that are always on your list, like daily or weekly tasks, and organize them in a way that gives you clarity over what is super important and super urgent, needs to be done today and tomorrow, and then what tasks can be structured in like a project format so that next week you can tap into your right side brain and finish this project, which is XYZ, finishing your paintings, starting a collection, whatever it is that is on your list. Take a look at it and use the Eisenhower Matrix and the 4 quadrants to organize your task list to give you clarity and control over your schedule. It is possible. It does not solve all your problems, of course, but you run your own business. You're in charge of your household. There are some things that you have control over, and controlling how you prioritize your task list is 100% up to you. You do not have to be running around putting out fires all day like we sometimes are. Sometimes that's just how it feels. It feels so overwhelming. It feels exhausting. And at the end of the day, you haven't stopped running around and you feel like you didn't get anything done because you've been putting out fires and greasing that squeaky wheel all day. So give the Eisenhower Matrix, the urgent, important matrix, a try, and focus on what truly matters and free yourself from overwhelm and start living with more purpose, creativity, and balance and joy. Don't be bogged down by tasks. Do what it is that you love to do, whether it's spending time with your family or working on a painting or answering emails and communicating with your clients. Give yourself the creative freedom to focus on that one task and put your whole heart and soul into it, as opposed to trying to paint while you know you've got all these things that you have to do. Put it down on a list, organize it with a matrix, and give yourself some peace and quiet, for goodness sake. So thanks for listening. I hope that you learned something. If you already knew about the Eisenhower Matrix and you're not using it in your day-to-day life, maybe this will be a reminder to, hey, focus on that. But if you are just hearing about the Eisenhower Matrix now for the first time, you're welcome. Please tell me how it works out. Leave a review, leave a comment, and please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, and stick around for the next episode. I can't wait to chat with you guys again. You got this. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this journey of artistic exploration, entrepreneurial growth, and personal development. Remember, you have the power to create a life that is both fulfilled and balanced. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe to The Composed Artist on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to leave us a review. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more creatives like you. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and keep pursuing that composed life. You got this.